We don't get to choose whether or not we get programmed. We are programmable by design. We can only choose how we want to be programmed. A famous quote by Peter Sage, an entrepreneur and philosopher. We are programmed by our environment for better or worse. These alterations can change your biases and worldview, impacting your thoughts and actions. My name is Avneeta Basu, and I'm here to understand why you think a certain way and how you can take back control of your mind. Peter Sage, an expert in human behavior, developed his 95% law, or the law of conformity. Per the law of conformity, 95% of the time, your brain is making unconscious decisions that guide your life. Repeated decisions that used to require conscious thought become ingrained habits. He also proposed that how you have been changed by the world around you cloud your judgment. In 2020, Sage proclaimed that children under 7 years old do not have critical thinking skills, making them very susceptible to outside influence. He proposed that children will act the way people around them claim they do. One event at a young age can drastically change how someone views themselves, and coupled with the 95% law can leave lingering effects. This programming becomes unconsciously ingrained deeper, becoming a habit you didn't even know you had. So why should you care? How does this impact your daily life? Metacognition means thinking about thinking. One factor that can cloud your metacognition is hindsight bias. The principle of hindsight bias is that an event is more probable after it occurs. For example, I'm going to flip this coin. Raise your hand if you think the coin will land heads up. Heads. Oh. It landed heads. All of you thought it was going to land tails. Is there just a little part of your head thinking, actually, I knew it was going to be heads. I just didn't say so because of some reason or excuse. We so desperately want to be correct that our brain will change our perception of past events to benefit ourselves. This is more evident in high-stress situations like tests and quizzes in school. It's also called the I knew it all along phenomenon, and you've likely experienced it before, if not now. Another factor that can cloud metacognition is internalized bias, which goes hand in hand with the third factor, misinformation. When you hear something that agrees with your internalized bias, whether it is true or not, you'll want to believe it, reinforcing that incorrect knowledge. The final part of this is Coombs' paradox. Coombs' paradox is the contradiction of studying your mind with your mind. Confusing, right? Essentially, can I think about thinking while I am thinking? The fundamental question here is, can you think on multiple levels at the same time? Can you correctly and objectively assess the past from your past person's point of view, or neither? If it is the second, we run into the problem of hindsight bias once again. For instance, in a 2013 study by researchers from the University of Washington and Quantum University College, people were asked how tall they thought the Statue of Liberty was. After the results were collected and the correct height of 151 feet was given, they were then asked what they thought their initial guess was. Frequently, people who had guessed 200 believed they had said 175, and people who had guessed 100 had believed they had said 125. We are biased toward ourselves. Fortunately, Coombs' paradox was not solved in this way. Scientists have determined that there must be two levels of consciousness that can function independently. This solves the issue of infinite regress, or the turtles all the way down phenomenon. However, part of the brain that is responsible for this phenomenon is the amygdala. And while it does allow you to think on two levels at the same time, it also tends to notice negative things before positive, which could result in inaccurate metacognition. So what happens when this bias affects your metacognition? The two primary results are the Dunning-Kruger effect and imposter syndrome. The Dunning-Kruger effect is overestimating your ability. This is primarily the result of not knowing what you will need to know. I'm a freshman here at Eastland High School. And at school, teachers hand out syllabi to help mitigate this. And on the first day of school this year, I got handed 8 syllabi in 6 hours. I was intimidated and scared. In the long run, this turned out to be beneficial. Since the objectives were set higher than I thought I could achieve, I was more motivated to study harder in order to do well in the class. Without an objective beyond someone's comfort zone, people will not want to learn because they believe they already know everything. Imposter syndrome is the opposite of the Dunning-Kruger effect. Imposter syndrome is feeling incompetent even if you objectively are competent. Some causes of this are anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. In 2009, a team of researchers from Florida State, New York, and Cornell universities found that people who scored in the bottom quartile of a knowledge-based assessment thought they scored in the 60th percentile. In the same study, people who scored in the top 25% believed they had scored below the 75th percentile, while they actually scored in around the 87th percentile. This, like the aforementioned studies about internalized bias and hindsight bias, can cause overconfident people to force their ideas on others. In summary, when your perceived ability is higher than what you actually know, you are experiencing the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you know more than you believe, you are experiencing